Did you know that the number one cause of death on construction sites are people who fall? Well, don't fall off your chair. Today we have an amazing guest, Chaza. Chaza is an expert in design and construction. She started her career as an architect, but later on led design and execution for some of the largest developers and owners out there, including USC, CBRE, Google, the Children's Hospital in Los Angeles, and currently leads commercial development at Rivian. I'm super excited for her to be on the podcast. Tune in. Hey, Chaza, what a pleasure having you on. Why don't we start off with you introducing yourself and telling us about Rivian and your position there?
Well, thank you so much for having me today. And yeah, let's get started. So I'm Shaza. My background is in architectural engineering. I've done a master in restoration of historic buildings and a recent master in project management. I've worked on the architect side for very long period of time until 2018. And then I was really driven by how things are designed, how things are built. So I thought, by moving to the construction industry, I'll have a better understanding of all that and also be a better designer. I ended up staying on the construction side, which is more fun or as fun as the design side. And so I worked on the owner side, on the consultant side. I did lead the design and construction of a very diverse portfolio of projects. I worked at USC, University of Southern California, Children's Hospital Los Angeles. I was a consultant at CBRE on the Google account, and I currently work at Rivian.
Okay, that is a lot, and I'm really excited. Sounds like you have a lot of experience to draw from. Why don't we start off with understanding kind of as a national development lead, what do you do?
So Rivian is an American EV manufacturing, vehicle manufacturing, and technology company. So the question is always, what does construction have to do with that? I get that a lot from a lot of people that I'm talking about what I do or where I work. When you're delivering an innovative product, a new technology, a new, luxury rigged car, you need the infrastructure for that. So the infrastructure could be service centers, could be all the tuning, all the equipment you need, the charger infrastructures that you need. And this is where my roles come in. I oversee existing service on the service side, existing locations, and try to understand the need for change or the requests, trying to execute on those requests and strategize on the root causes of those requests, why they were not part of the original build, and try to group them as a program, strategize how I can bid them out, how can be cost efficient, and how I can deliver. So part of my role includes a lot of process improvements, creating new processes probably, because Rivian is a startup. It just grows so fast and so quickly that it makes it very different from other places I worked at. You just need to be very open to change, very, I guess, innovative, open-minded to new approaches on how you execute on projects.
Sounds like you're taking agile to the next level.
I think so, yeah, which is interesting because in the construction industry, it's mostly, waterfall, it's traditional. And few places will just look at design and construction the way Rivian or tech companies do.
Okay, so that's really exciting. Also, another thing that I kind of love about kind of what you're describing is the correlation between electric vehicles and facilities and building them. Who'd think that, you don't have electric vehicles without having the proper service centers and facilities to actually manufacture them. So I think that's an interesting point. You just described, like, what would you say, like, the key difference between working on these projects versus the more traditional projects? What would they be?
I think it's just being open to processing things differently, to experimenting, to just go ahead and try to do things, knowing that change is always driving tech companies or innovative companies. So having this mindset of open-mindedness and curiosity and trying to understand how things need to be built and also adapt to that model as opposed to, having a specific workflow. We start A, B, C, and then in a startup model, it's very different. Things can be disrupted. and just accepting that and not thinking of it as chaotic. No, it's an opportunity to build processes, to be part of an innovation. So I guess that's the main difference.
I love that because innovation is it's a process that is very versatile, very quick. I mean, it demands a lot of creativity, a lot of problem solving, right? So,
Yeah.
like, you're in the heart of this thing and you're dealing with a very traditional industry. So,
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
okay, hats off. And, I'm sure it's very challenging and very interesting. You typically, throughout your career, represented a lot the owner standpoint as well as kind of developers and now also like the company interest. How do you work with construction companies? What's that relationship?
So yeah, so sure. It's been, I mean, since I shifted to the construction industry, it's been just on a, daily basis on it. It's just because I lead construction and design, I've been part of this process since the very beginning. Some organizations will invest in a pre-con phase where you bring on the GC during design, which I find to be the best approach. Because you're seeing things from a design perspective, from an engineering perspective, and also from the actual people that will be executing the work. So I've done that model where there is a pre-con phase to the project, and also a model where you design, you bid, you award, then you work with a construction company or a GC. So, and also a design build where you just have one entity that's, designing and coordinating all the construction, all the design and construction. So three different models, but it's just, different exposures to the construction industry throughout my career. So it just depends on the organization's appetite to take risks or, to invest.
So, why don't we even get in a bit earlier in the career? Why do you choose to study architecture and embark on your professional journey that led you down this path?
So I've always been driven to art since, at a younger age, thinking that, first it was I want to be an artist, I want to paint. And then, as I got older, well, I need to have a job too. I can't just do art. So I have a passion for both, art and I would say not engineering, but problem solving. And I look at architecture as the right combination. You're problem solving when it comes to, someone is asking you to build a specific, project. Then you have your codes, your requirements, your regulations. So you have to comply to all of that at the same time create. So it's this good balance of, solving this problem in a creative way. You still, back in the days you would still sketch and do hands, but I grew through the process of, started sketching, learned modeling, did 3D models, used 3D Max or SketchUp. So all those interesting parts, made me realize that I could not have seen myself doing anything else but architecture.
Oh, wow. Okay, and how do you end up in this role? Like, what led you to it? What kind of drew you down this path?
Yeah, it's interesting because maybe when I was studying architecture, I would have never thought I would take the project management, construction management route. But as I had shared with you, I always thought that being a good designer means understanding how things are built. How do you sequence your activities when you're actually building something? Understanding how trades work. How does construction managers put their schedules together? Budgets, forecasting, all those things play a very important role. I didn't want to just be, sitting behind my computer designing and going on site once a week during construction. That's I wanted to understand way more. So that's what drove me. Initially, what drove me there is I want to be a better designer by understanding all those. Then when I entered that world, it's way more than what I thought. It's the complexity, the challenges, even switching between industries. I didn't stay, in the hospitality or commercial industries. I kept moving. And I find it very satisfying on the professional level to just learn how diverse those worlds are. Although it's all construction, it's all design, but the way each organization is set up is completely different. And that's the beauty of it. It keeps me challenged, engaged. It's beautiful.
I love it. It sounds like you're really in a sweet spot of both creativity and problem solving. And you kind of pursue that in your career and you're always learning something new.
Yeah, I get the best of both worlds of design and construction.
You are someone with a lot of architecture and project management experience. What would you say most construction professionals tend to overlook?
I think it's related to communication. It is communicating bad news. And we discussed it quickly before the podcast, but it's very interesting because it's also my own lessons learned. It's something I learned through my career. There is no point of delaying bad news. And, it's something you'll have to share eventually. So I think just being transparent and open to sharing those things with owners, with stakeholders. And, either it's a schedule delay or a budget increase, it's extremely important, as important as sharing good news. So communication and being transparent is something I see a lot, repetitively happening on the construction side. Thinking maybe we'll be able to solve it. Maybe we don't need to share. And then times go by and you know.
Okay, so deliver the bad news quickly.
Yeah, deliver the bad news quickly and then we can solve it together.
Okay. Burying your head in the sand's not solving the issue, right?
Yeah, never. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good message out there to all the professionals in this space. So, what are the greatest challenges or problems that are keeping you up at night? Like, what's that one thing you're almost going to sleep and you're thinking, "Oh my gosh," you know, what is that?
I usually fall asleep super easily. So, not necessarily keeping me awake, but the thing that I keep thinking of all the time is how can I be more efficient? Am I doing things in the best way it can be done? What can I change? What process can I change without disrupting the entire process and changing things in a way that would just, slow things down? It's always about efficiency. It's always about cost saving. Could I have done this thing in a way that would have cost me less? It's just always trying to understand how to improve, and that's really the thing that keeps me thinking.
Is there anything that's beyond improving, but like maybe it's even related to those cover ups that, constructions are facing, like the professionals are trying to hide or something? Is that something that concerns like what's not going well and do I know about it? Or if there is there anything that's like major, this is an issue that I'm trying to figure out. I haven't managed to figure out yet, but it's being managed more or less.
Yeah, I think now that I have the design experience, the construction experience, one of the things that I keep thinking about is how do you make the design industry, the construction industry more communicate in a better way? That I see is a big issue in general because until today, a majority of organization, you'll have design and construction as two separate entities. And I'm not necessarily saying a design build model. I'm just, thinking of a new way you can approach this relationship between contractors and architects because you don't want it to be we're pointing fingers. Well, it wasn't on the drawings. Well, they didn't do it right. It's there must be a way where you can just bring on those teams and have them partnership. And typically, this would be done at the early design phases. But again, it's always budget constraints. That's why you don't bring on a pre-con team. I can go on and on with this subject for a long time, but because I've seen it done in very different ways, and I take all the lessons learned from that, the positive, the value of bringing a construction team during design is extremely important. So these are the things that I keep thinking of. There must be a way that is not crazy cost effective, that will not impact my budget in a crazy way, but brings value to my project. So this is one of the things that I try to improve on.
Okay, that's great. So would you say that so it sounds like the design and the execution tend to have, we'll say different forces pulling to different sides versus it being more collaborative.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
okay. And you're saying you also brought up another issue, which is kind of resources or budget challenges to kind of even maybe apply the solutions that today exist, or are there, I mean, what I'm trying to point at is, are the solutions readily available for you, but the real challenge in it is resources, or is it the fact that, I haven't yet found the effective solution that's really, but I wish I would.
It's resources, but also even if, let's say, you have the resources, it doesn't mean that the process is going to go smoothly. It always goes back to how curious are the professionals working on a project. Are they asking the right questions at the right time? I feel like everything you can save so much money during construction if you spend a little bit more during design. So that's the approach that I always think of. Spend an extra dollar during design, you'll save $100 during construction, maybe more. So that's the approach that I'm coming coming from is just to have this collaborative relationship that will serve the owner and at the same time builds that good relationship between a GC and an architect, but that's all communication based. That's the way you set up your team at the beginning of the project. So it's not just financial, it's also communication tools and the team you're building.
Okay, great. So we really kind of touched on the challenge from a lot of different perspectives. Now I want to pick your brain on kind of what do you think, or what's your perspective on construction technology? Do you have a built-in like a process in which, maybe you're dealing with a challenge, like we'll look at certain technologies now, and what would it look like for a startup who'd want to work with you?
Yeah, it really depends on the organization. So the more mature the organization is, you'll see more use of technology. Like if you're talking about a university, for instance, you'll see the use of BEM way more than, a smaller company. They take the investment because they understand it's a long-term investment. So the use of technology, either in documenting drawings, sharing drawings, or even technology used for cost management, forecasting, all those tools are invested in when we're talking about a more mature organization. When it comes to startups, there are a lot of uncertainties when it comes to startups regarding funding, regarding all the changes that happen. So it's normal to maybe start on something and then stop and then just realize, well, we can't continue this because we shifted priorities. Understanding that and accepting it is part of the startup game.
So what would you say is the greatest hurdles that are holding back, technology or innovation in the industry?
Yeah, this one is a great question. And it's also one of the things that, keep me thinking because the construction industry in the US is probably valued at, I don't know, $2 trillion, something really huge. I mean, one of the largest in the world. So you would think that this large industry would be adapting all sort of high technology. This is a privilege to big firms, to mega projects, to big GCs. But then we're leaving all the small size and mid sized GCs to adapt. And so, who's creating a revolution is really the bigger firms, the bigger projects, the big GCs. And then you have all these small and medium sized contractors just adapting to this revolution. So, I recently read, and I'll share that article with you. It's super interesting. It's a Harvard Business Review. And I think the title is Can the Construction Industry Be Disrupted? And so, to me, what stood out the most and what is spot on is yeah, the construction industry has adopted a evolutionary and not revolutionary pace of change, which
Mhm.
is very accurate. And so when we're talking about the hurdles, it's financial. It comes to also how motivated companies are into investing into a new tool that will probably provide benefits, but on the long term. So are we thinking long term or short term or just now profit? It depends on the size of the project, which, also brings another issue, which is skilled labor. If you're going to adopt certain technologies, you're going to have to train your labor, and that will increase your budget cost. Your overall budget, your overall cost on delivering a project. So it's a lot of things that are tied into each other that will lead to other things. But yeah, I mean, adopting technology, I think we all know that is the way to go. But are we ready to make the investment? Do we have, a financial ability to invest in that is really the question there.
Okay. Super interesting. Why do you think is the way to solve that problem?
I think, financial issues you can't really solve. I mean, if I'm talking just now in this, at these times, it's financial. It's really financial. But thinking long term, I think it can be solved by having BIM models mandated by nationwide. The thing is, BIM is a requirement in France, in the UK, in Germany, in Australia. It is not yet in the US. And I think that will be a game changer for the industry. It will just, definitely save construction costs, make everybody's life easier. I mean, there are still a lot of organization or a lot of GCs that just put your mechanical drawing on top of your electrical, on top of your original architectural plan, and review drawings this way, while we have the technology to just laser scan everything and see what's behind the wall. You can see the unforeseens. Every time you got a change order from your construction manager saying unforeseen conditions, it could be unforeseen. It could have been if we use the right technology. So I think BEM would be a game changer if when it becomes mandated on the national level.
Okay. So you're saying one of the solutions is kind of BIM, which is, kind of the 3D modeling that is you're saying firsthand the impact that it's having across your projects, right?
Because yes, yeah, and also because it makes the relationship better between the engineering teams, the architect, and also your contractor that can just walk on site with their iPad and just note things there, as opposed to just waiting, emailing back and forth, asking questions. So it has the potential to really save a lot of time and costs eventually.
Okay, so kind of you just described a moment ago that one of the biggest challenges relates to the financials, right, in the industry. At the same time, I mean, in general, construction is an invest first, make your money later, right? Industry in general. So I always say the construction companies know how to invest. They do it all the time. They're always assuming some level of risk. But one of the biggest challenges that we're seeing in technology is that there is a certain fear of investing in the technology solution at that stage. And so maybe I'm always kind of skeptical a little bit that the financials a problem versus maybe the trust or the belief that it is a very viable return of investment a little bit. And one of my questions I want to ask now is you're firsthand seeing the value BIM's creating for a project. Would you say that it's measurable in that that you see projects saving significant amount of money due to using it? Is this an investment that isn't measurable and will promise a return? Or how would you look at it?
Yeah, I definitely see it as measurable. And I'm sure there are a lot of reports around that. But I'm talking about it in terms of, having lived through the evolution of moving from 2D drawings, drafting drawings in CAD, then moving to now Revit, where you see 3D models. It's just the ease of understanding and coordinating with your mechanical, electrical engineer, plumbing. It just makes things definitely easier. It just saves time. And I'm talking now my personal experience, not any numbers or statistics. But yeah, I can easily see how it will impact the construction industry and how easy it will make, And I know it's used on like mega projects and large scale projects. I wish it can be used on smaller scales, or it's more accessible on the smaller scale. So you mentioned the fear of investing. I think, yes, it adds another layer of risk. The construction industry in general is a risky industry. There's safety, either, it's all the unforeseens, all the, damage that can be caused on site by accidents. There are a lot of risks. So adding another risk that you choose to add is probably not something a lot of organizations are going to choose.
Interesting. So they're over risking to an extent.
Yes, exactly.
They're trying to de-risk their project and say, okay, what level of risk can we take out of it? What new variables can move out? In the meantime, it sounds like it's a bit of a catch-24 because while using them, you're removing a lot of the risk of not being able to project, you know, rework or so forth or bumps in the project. So we'll jump onto another area, but it's fun, and I definitely think that there's a lot more conversation to have about how technology needs to. I think that it needs to meet the burden of proof that the industry is requiring from it, and that's an interesting kind of challenge. And I'd love to have even expand further, but just because we're running out of time, I'll go to the next question. So, what do you think the future of the construction industry looks like, and how can technology help shape that future?
Because I'm very optimistic in general, I see it moving positively. I see, I don't know, I just imagine it, picture it, not in the next decade. Maybe it will take longer, but I see a lot of, 3D printer use, a lot of pre-manufactured, prefab being a part of the industry, a lot of maybe using drones for site surveys, for laser scanning, for reporting, documentation. I just think that this is the way the construction industry will be moving toward, because we all know it's going to bring positive impact. It's just, when do we adopt technology, would be the question. But I'm pretty sure we will. Hopefully I'll be able to see it. But yes.
Hopefully in our lifetime, but it will happen.
Yes.
Evolution
Yeah.
is happening. But
I mean, it's definitely slower than other industries. Like, I don't remember where, but I was just reading the difference between how quickly the manufacturing industry evolved and adapted technology and robotics, and why the construction industry is not taking, or can't really take, that same route, because you have different sites, you have your outside, your unknowns are just much bigger than being able to apply robotics into construction. So it's quite interesting just to make the comparison and see why it's slower.
I think it's a really interesting point. And when we look across almost every other industry, we're seeing that technology has been adopted in one way or another. And the construction industry has managed to kind of silo itself or, kind of protect the traditional methods of what would you say are the three most important skills or qualities that are required to be great in your role?
I would put innovation as one of them. Being able to challenge existing ways of doing things, being able to ask, why is it done this way and not this way? Let's try something else. So that I have not seen a lot. I just see people accepting the way things are done and just, proceeding, because change is difficult. And I guess people stop where, well, we're not able to change things. Let's just do them the way they were done. So being innovative and open-minded to just new things, also being curious, asking a lot of questions, understanding, even if it's not your main area of expertise, just, ask, why are things done in this way and not in another way? Just opens up a lot of, new perspectives into looking at things, and how to deliver better, how to be exceptional at what we do, not just good or great. So those are, two important things. I also think of communication, because I don't know, not 100%, but 95% of what we do is communication based. So being able to simplify information in my industry is critical, because not everybody I work with has an architectural background or has done a construction project before. So when you're talking to owners or stakeholders with terms related to plan checking and approval and permits, they may not know what those things are. So being able to break down complex technical information into smaller portions that somebody that doesn't have the professional background will be able to understand is crucial.
That's really great. One of the things that I'm going to pick at is kind of the way that you're describing innovation. It sounds like it's almost a process of its own.
Yes, I mean, kind of. It's just I let it just be like more fluid than anything. It's just, I guess, observing first and trying to analyze what can be done better. And I mean, pretty much all the places I worked at, the first thing I've done is creating a diagram, a just flow chart of how things are done from point A to Z. And then look at, oh, this is repetitive. Why are we doing this process 3 times? Why is this thing, getting stuck here for like 3 weeks? So just observing and then trying to tackle each area of improvement separately is really important. So yes, innovation it's also a mindset. You can't really force someone to improve if they're not, in the mindset, if they don't are not open-minded to change. So it's both, personal, I guess, drivers to let you do something and also being like optimistic. You can't drive change if you're not optimistic and believing that change is a good thing.
Okay, I love that. And one of the things that we are really kind of working on also at Global Construction Tech, which is a company we're involved is, it seems to be that everyone in the industry knows that they go for a PMP course, project management professional. But what about the characteristics of innovation in projects, which is constantly happening? That needs training, just like anything else,
Yeah.
And so it's actually a project that we've been working on also with the very large university. How do you manage to take an innovation project management professional? Right? It's a skill that the construction industry was kind of avoiding. One of the sad statistics about it is like between 65 to 80% of innovation related projects tend to fail, which is not good for the industry and for the startups because then it becomes a bigger risk. Given the limited time we have left, I'll jump on to the next question. What is the legacy you want to leave behind you?
That's interesting. So I was, thinking about this. I think it's being able to make a slight change into a place that I joined, being able to move things, even a little bit. That to me is huge. It means that I was able to have an impact, that I was able to improve something. That's really what I care the most about. I just don't want to do things like to do my role and deliver things and, be good at what I do. I don't want to be just good. I want to be really exceptional in the way I do things. I want to disrupt something in a positive way. That's what I want to do.
I'm inspired. Where do I sign up? Right. And what is your most inspiring career lesson you've had? And what advice or tips would you give to founders and students that are interested in entering the construction industry?
Lessons learned or my biggest, inspiration. I guess there are a lot, but let's see. I think to never make assumptions, to never assume that I know everything about what I'm given, to always question and not be afraid of asking question or be, afraid of being judged. There is no such a thing as a silly question. It All questions make sense. They all lead into understanding things better. And I think not being afraid of just asking anything. Because early in my career, and that's, really a long time ago, I just thought that if I ask too much, I may be seen as I don't know what I'm doing. But then with time, it's the complete opposite. I mean, I ask so many things about a lot of, I work with a lot of cross functional teams on things that are not necessarily directly related to what I do, but I love to understand how they do things. What is their process? How do they deliver things? And to me, that would be the advice I would give to myself 20 years ago. Just ask, and I would just give this advice to anyone that there is, it's always, there is no cost to asking questions now. There will be a big cost if you don't ask the right question. So that would be really the main advice. And to someone that's trying to develop a technology to serve startups, just understand the industry and what is the biggest problems that each industry is trying to solve. And having been in like different organizations doing healthcare, commercial, educational, I understand the differences between all those organizations and what drives each one of them. So being able to specialize in just maybe one sector and tackle the most important challenges for this sector would be easier than just, starting in general and trying to apply that then to different organizations.
Okay, I love that answer. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on. Thank you so much for joining the podcast and sharing your insights with us.
Thank you so much, Eliyahu. That was really fun and I really enjoyed this podcast. Thank you for inviting me.
It was a pleasure. Guys, that's a wrap. Don't forget to comment, like, share, subscribe. You're part of this community. Engage with us. Leave comments. Don't forget to tune into the next episodes because there are going to be some amazing, amazing, amazing guests and speakers. And thank you for tuning in.